Hello there. We are live. My name is Andrew, and welcome to Crazy Old Wizards. This is our test pilot preview stream of Star Wars Squadrons. I'm joined by Dan. Hello there.
Hello there. What have we here?
And Clint. Hi.
Hello.
And we're waiting on Steve. He should be coming on in a second. As you can see, I have started to download the game. So that is happening. Actually, I need to see if I pause that. I should have paused it so that we can stream for now. Right now, just for tonight, we're not actually playing the game Star Wars Squadrons. Lucas in the chat, our very first chat member, asked an important question whether or not we'd be streaming the actual game tonight if it had launched in our region. It has not yet, but it will be tomorrow. On the East Coast, it is 7 p.m. Tomorrow at 11:30 p.m., we'll be starting our marathon stream for the game to be launching at midnight. So, Lucas, welcome. Hello there. And we will be just doing a little bit of a preview tonight um, about what we're looking for from the game and what you can expect from our channel. Um, right now, just because we're still working out the kinks a little bit, can what can people see on the stream right now?
I think they say that they can say that we're putting it PS4. So a couple of us will be on PS4, but the game supports cross gameplay, we also are going to have a PC player and an Xbox player as well. So we're going to try to give all the different perspectives on the game. Some of us will be slumming it with a controller, while other of us have made the quite possibly competitively excellent decision to buy a flight stick.
Yeah, I think Steve
Um,
is going to be on the HOTAS pretty hard when he gets on. Looks like our screen is frozen here. That's not good. Let's see if we can work out that kink. Thanks for bearing with us, guys. This is why we call it the test pilot stream.
though I appreciate the frozen emoji.
Let's see if we can switch to a different window capture.
Well, that was a horn right there.
All right. Nope, still frozen.
Well,
I bet it's a problem with remote play. There we go.
yeah,
That's better.
there we go. So, yeah. So I mean, what we're thinking is that we, take about, an hour or so tonight. Um, introduce ourselves, let you know what what we're going to be playing, what we're going to be doing. We are going to throw some Battlefront 2 up onto the stream because, why not?
Yeah,
Um,
and that's just for tonight. Once we get moving with the actual Squadrons game, then you'll be seeing actual game capture of Star Wars Squadrons itself, pretty much exclusively.
yeah, we're gonna be riding that squadron life pretty hard in the cockpit every night. Well, not every night, but quite frequently, um, bringing the daring do of the Star Wars universe to you.
Tim, welcome to the chat. Good to have you with us. I hope our screen is unfrozen for you. I'm seeing it's unfrozen, so I should have resolved that. But please let us know if you see any other problems, because we are still working out the kinks here. You can tell from our fancy overlay that we still got to remove the watermarks on it. I'm working with the company to see if we can get it uh, to a point where it's worth paying to remove the watermarks. So that's where we're at right now. But we're going to be working out a lot of these kinks, hopefully in the next couple days, but definitely long term. It shouldn't be an issue. All right, let's see if we can deal with some bucket heads here. I am a heavy butcher. I'm not a sniper in this game, and this is a sniper-friendly level. So I do not expect much luck on the Geonosis level here. I just downloaded Battlefront to keep me occupied while I was waiting for Squadrons to load. Yep, see, there we go. The rocket troopers are
So,
brutal
Andrew,
on
would it
this
be
level.
would it be safe to say that the prequel era is your favorite era of Star Wars?
Dan, I love all my children equally. I certainly
No, you
grew up with
don't.
the I certainly grew up with the prequels, like a lot of people our age. Um, but I, I I think each trilogy, and we're going to talk about this a lot more. I think each trilogy has its own unique benefits. No, the prequels are not my favorite trilogy, um, but I don't want to spoil too much. We got to leave something for the meat and potatoes. Tim asks, "Have you played Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order before?" Uh, I have not. Dan, your mileage may vary. Um,
So I played it a little bit, and I've spent some time on the gameplay as well. And of the Star Wars games, like I definitely appreciated it because it was like an open world type game. Um, if you played the single player of Battlefront 2, um, I definitely think it was more confined. It reminded me a lot of the Jedi games like Knights of the Old Republic or um, RIP Knights of the Old Republic, or just like any of like I forget the guy's name now. But Fallen Order, I felt like had a really good story and really good gameplay mechanics.
That's what I've heard about it. Yeah, I've seen a few reviews from like Polygon and Video Game Donkey. I mean, his is not very serious, but still, it looks. Yeah, I think the general consensus is that it's a very competent um, entry in Star Wars gaming, and sort of the closest Star Wars gets to a Dark Souls clone. Um, I am not a Dark Souls. I have never really been a Dark Souls, so it's not exactly my cup of blue milk, but. Um, I've heard great things about it. If you guys have played Jedi Fallen Order, let us know in the chat what you thought.
Let
Because,
us know if you would like us to play it eventually. It's really what we're asking.
Dan, I don't want to redesign our logo. X-wings have
You know
nothing to
what?
do with Squadrons, or X-wings have nothing to do with Jedi Fallen Order.
We gotta live and live with the Star Wars. We
Do they
lived
still
it, Ted.
they still have Z95? Were Z95s created yet at the time of Fallen Order? You could always just say it's
Oh man, that's
an ugly Z95.
Clint with the Legends canon cut. Are Z95s in the new canon?
I don't
Uh,
remember.
they've got to be.
Yeah, because I remember them being just when they were first kind of put into the legend stuff back in the day in the expanded universe. It was kind of like, hey, these are like
The pre X-wings.
right, the prototype almost, the X-wings, and
Good stuff.
should
Z95 Headhunter.
so.
Hey,
Um,
if we have a space plane with four wings, wouldn't it be logical to start with one with two wings?
right, yeah, good point. Yeah, the aerodynamics of
I think who was it? Was it Eckhart's Ladder? Maybe had a video about why like the laws of physics in Star Wars work different, and space is not a total vacuum. Therefore, there's like a little bit of aerodynamics. Um, Hence, they don't just have like thrusters like our spacecraft do in the real world. Like it actually makes sense to have wings in theory, and it actually makes a little bit of sense for there to be like a little bit of sound in space. I don't know. That's it's out there. It's in the ether. That theory's out there, not our theory. Um,
I was gonna
but
say, I thought at least the X-wing class ships had repulsors on the bottom that gave them their vertical lift.
right, because you do see them. That's how they do their takeoff and landing. So
Right.
they at least have that. And I think
Yeah.
in this game, we have the ability to hover. Not this game, sorry. In Squadrons, they have the ability to hover, like to cut velocity altogether and just sit there in midair, which I don't believe in Starfighter Assault and Battlefront you have the ability to do.
If you want to talk about bad starfighter mechanics, you can look at Battlefront 2.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, chat. There's a reason we're not doing Starfighter Assault right now. I don't want to get any bad habits because I uh, do not like the mechanics in Starfighter Assault and Battlefront 2. I'm very happy with the game overall, but just not so much there.
yeah, it's definitely an experience. Um, So, guys, this is the question. I'm sure the chat wants to know the answer to this, which is which starfighter are you looking most forward to playing with in the game?
Clint, why do you go first if you're there?
So I am a bit of a sucker for all the Imperial stuff, but of the four, I gotta go just the regular TIE fighter, actually. Not just, you know, going back to my experience with Star Wars, I think the first Star Wars game I ever played was the original TIE fighter. So just playing a shieldless, grunt uh, fighter kind of appeals to me. I think I'm looking forward to that. Also, in terms of the rebellion, I think Y wings, just because, I mean, I remember growing up and Y wings were seen as kind of the redheaded stepchild, I guess. And
Hmm.
I kind of look forward to that too. So,
Maybe they should have been Red Squadron instead of Gold
it,
Squadron.
yeah, exactly.
Look, whatever starfighter you end up choosing, you have to buy the Lego version of and build it.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. The ceiling of my basement in my parents' house growing up was definitely had a Y-wing in it. Um, that's interesting, Clint. I haven't heard a whole lot of people jumping to play the all-around fighter class, but I'm glad our squad has one. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely, I think, like I said with the Y-wing, when I look back at my nostalgia, the original Tie Fighter, and then for the Imperials, the bomber. The ones from Empire Strikes Back are kind of the ones that get me interested the most.
Mm.
But
Did we ever? Is it settled canon what is in the second pod of the bomber, like double pod cockpit
I thought it
thing?
was ordnance.
Is it?
I thought it
It's
was
just
ordnance.
okay. That
yeah, I
would that
think
would make
so.
sense.
There's a schematics book that came out in like the late '90s, early 2000s, and it kind of had a cross section of what's supposed to be in that
Oh, is that the
in
Incredible
that
Cross
style.
Sections book?
I can't remember what it's called. I'll have to pull it up, but I do know the Incredible Cross Section book is actually really helpful. But this one's like pre. I think this book's actually even prequels. Um, but they had one that was all spaceships, all starships, all including like Cloud City, and then they also had a book that was basically an analysis of each planet in both the original series, the original series of Star Trek here, uh, the original trilogy, and then in the expanded universe at the time.
Back in the day.
It's just wild.
DP Arcade, welcome to the chat. This looks so good. I feel like that could mean a few different things. The game that we'll be playing starting tomorrow, Star Wars Squadrons, this current stream, which I'm betting is a little bit ironic, um, or
What?
or some third option that I'm not considering. Um, hey, Lucas, thanks for the follow. I just saw that come up. Um,
Oh,
our first chat member and our first follow, appropriately named.
man. Oh boy. Yeah. So I am looking forward to the Y wing. Like that is where I live. But my problem is that in a starfighter battle, unless the shields or the ion cannon is a particularly defensive or a particularly good for certain like kind of hit and run strategies, I don't know how good it'll be in the 5-on-5s, but um, uh, I'm hoping that to maybe pick up like an A wing for quick things. And the other thing I didn't think so like as a longtime Star Wars fan, we haven't really talked about. Obviously, we're going to try to split our time evenly between Imperials and Rebels, I think. Um, but thinking about Imperial stuff, I don't know. I'm gonna have to think hard about the Imperial ships that I'm looking forward to flying.
Yeah, and that's going to be one of the cool things about this is Battlefront 2 has made an effort to make the factions less symmetrical, but for the most part they're still pretty symmetrical. The special classes tend to be a little more asymmetrical, but like your assault troopers for the rebels are going to be pretty much the same as your stormtroopers for the Imperials. Not the case with squadrons, where if you all are not up on the details of the game, the rebel ships will all have shields. The Imperial ships will not have shields, with the exception of the TIE. What is it? Enforcer, the support class. The other ships won't have shields. They'll be more nimble. They might be a little bit faster, and it should be easier to transfer power. So ships in the same class in different factions aren't symmetrical, which means the playstyle is going to vary for us based on which faction we're actually playing as, um, which is going to add more than one wrinkle to the game, I think, in the long run. Um, so that'll be interesting to see. Okay, so Dan is thinking the boat, the bomber class. Um, hey, Ugliest Dwarf, welcome to the chat. Um, Ugliest Dwarf is going to try HOTAS in response to DP Arcade's question about control setup. So Clint's maybe looking for a fighter class. Dan, you thinking probably switching between bomber and interceptor,
Yeah,
depending on the mode.
yeah, and I'm also gonna hop on that question about the control setup. So I'm going to start like legit like just PS4 controller, but we'll see where the stream goes, because like I would love to get a good thrust capacity. I'd love to get a good flight stick, but I think we'll have to see. I think people who have been flying online for a long time definitely are going to prefer the stick, but we'll have to see if that really gives you an advantage in flying in combat. I suspect it will, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, Dan, I'm also working on a PS4 as well. And I grew up with PlayStation, so I'm kind of comfortable with this. If we can reach affiliate pretty quick and get some subs, then maybe we'll be able to afford some HOTAS rigs, like we've been seeing on the Star Wars Squadrons subreddit, which have either been uh, hilariously intense and purpose built, or hilariously duct taped together. Um, so our stream in spirit is going to be a little bit of both. Um, Purpose built because we're only doing Star Wars Squadrons to start out, but also there's a lot of duct tape with the technical details of the stream. Um, so Dan's PS4, I'm PS4. Clint, what rig are you going to be working on to start out?
So I'm going to be working on my Xbox One. So we can
Expo.
get a little, yeah, so we can see how give our little contribution to the console wars. So I'll be on the Xbox while you guys are not. I'm not partial to either, but I definitely I think this will do decent on the setup I have right now, my Xbox. So
Thank goodness this game has cross-platform compatibility, because like, if you guys don't know, if you're thinking about getting the game, that is definitely a plus. It has
Yeah.
voice chat and cross-platform. It doesn't have cross-platform progression. So if I was going to go out in a month and get the like the Xbox One X version of this game, I would have to. I guess it's a little more than a month. I would have to restart my progress. Um, so I couldn't just transfer my file over here. DP Arcade's going on PC. Um, the Juicy Quest 2.
Well, that's the big thing too, because like if you play it in VR, like is that going to give you an advantage, like, or is it just going to be super disorienting? I don't know, but I DP Arcade, you're going to have to let us know before I go spend a couple $100 on a VR setup.
Yeah, definitely let us know about that. Whether or not you get motion sick, or whether or not you're like an all-seeing eye, and that is the like palantir that leads to your domination of online play. Um,
Well, I think with the VR, like I think what's going to be curious is like you're going to be able to look up like out the top of the canopy on the X-wing. And so you're going to get some perception on your
mhm.
left and on your right that you're not going to get necessarily without doing some very intentional stuff with a controller.
Yeah, and I know that free look, there will be some sort of functionality with just a controller and no VR, but I mean it's not going to be nearly as natural as just turning your head.
Yeah, no, I'm excited though. I'm because I think I think what really has everyone excited for this is that we're going to this is going to be the best starfighter experience. Is fingers crossed is the hope. This will be the best starfighter experience I think that we've ever had. You know, on in video games.
Definitely, yeah, definitely better than my previous Starfighter experience. Hey, DP Arcade, thanks for the follow, man. So yeah, my previous Starfighter experience was with a little game called Star Wars Jedi Starfighter,
Oh
which was a
God.
tie-in to Attack of the Clones, way back in the day. Trying to live up to the old and crazy old wizards here. Um, and that was a fun game. As far as I remember, I was not a serious gamer. I've always been more of a casual. Um, but you had sort of force aided flying ability, which, as far as gaming in 2002 was capable, was pretty neat for gameplay. Anybody else remember Jedi Starfighter? Dan, it sounds like you have some associations with that.
I do. I do. I mean, the power ups were interesting. Um, I just remember like it was I remember like unlocking the other starfighters. I think I remember flying a Naboo starfighter. It was one of the unlockables
Yeah,
in there.
because that was the previous iteration of the game, was just Star Wars Starfighter, which was, I think, the Episode 1 tie-in. So yeah, they would have had like a little unlockable for the sequel, so you could fly the original ship. Sorry, go on, Dan.
No, I was going to say my first experience with a Star Wars fighter game was N64's Rogue Squadron, um, and it was an experience. But you could unlock the Falcon, and that was the end goal, right? Like you got to get the Falcon.
Wish I'd been an N64 kid, largely because of that.
Hey guys, sorry be a little late. It's having some technical issues over here, but I hope
It's
y'all hear me now.
it's Steve. Welcome aboard.
Yes,
Hi, Steve.
yes. Rogue Squadron is a rough one to start with, man. I wanted to be a fighter pilot, like an actual fighter pilot, like my whole childhood and teenage years. And turned out I was way too tall, and my vision was terrible. But so that went out the window when I was like 14. But these games were kind of how I lived out that fantasy. And Rogue Squadron was a rough one for me just because the controls on it were so restricted. Like, a lot of these other flying games, they have freer controls, like actually flying a plane. And that's what I enjoyed about them. And Rogue Squadron was very, very restricted in your motion. So that one was hard for me to play. Um, so,
In
it,
case you all can't tell, Steve is going to be the one with the HOTAS setup.
yes, I am. And I got into these games with X-wing versus Tie Fighter, and man, I would fake being sick to stay home and play that game when I was a little kid. And my parents finally got me my first computer when I was young, and I would just like sit in my room all day and play X-wing versus Tie Fighter when I should have been in school.
I mean, there are worse things to do with your day.
Yeah, I guess other kids probably skip for worse things than playing X-wing versus Tie Fighter. So maybe my parents knew, but they were just not that concerned about it.
Man, I remember. So like like how like Disney Movie Club does the thing where like if you subscribe and it's a trap, but you get like 5 movies for like $5. My first experience with Star Wars is that my parents did that for VHS tapes, and it was like
Oh,
ten
Oh
dollars for
dear.
10 VHS tapes, and 3 of the VHS tapes were Star Wars, and that's how I saw Star Wars for the first time. Was on VHS from one of those like kind of subscription clubs. Um, and so like that got me down a long line. And then I was just like knee deep in micro Star Wars fighter micro machines is where I
nice.
existed. So what Steve? So you're here now. What fighter are you looking forward to piloting?
So for me, it's the interceptor, which kind of surprises me. But just an old X-wing versus Tie Fighter, the Imperial fighters without the shields just frustrated me a lot of the time. So maybe I'll try it and just get angry and not want to do it anymore. But uh, as someone who loves that dogfighting, getting in the interceptor and having that speed and really putting that to use is appealing to me. On the Rebel side, I'm kind of looking forward to the U-wing just because it's a new sort of thing for these games, and that support class is interesting to me just to see how it balances with everything else. Because for me, when I always played the heavier, bulkier craft and old Star Wars flying games, I just got tore apart because you can't maneuver in them at all. You can't dodge anything. You can't, you're just a sitting duck the whole time. So I'm interested to see how they balance that out. Um, and again, maybe that's something I try and get frustrated with. You never know until you're actually in the game and you got hands on. But
And I am going to be the team mom. I'm probably going to be playing the support class pretty frequently, unless it turns out to be very important and a very finely crafted skill, in which case one of these guys might need to take over because I'm watching the stream. But that's okay. You all are worth it. And hey, it looks like we have 8 viewers in our first 30 minutes. That's
yeah,
I'm
and
I'm happy with that.
Ugliest Dwarf is pointing something out that I am really interested in is how this compares with Elite Dangerous and Star Citizen, um, and sort of modern, you know, space fighter games, piloting games. Obviously, this one's going to have a very different emphasis. Where those ones, focus on exploring and crafting and all that kind of thing. It's almost an RPG combined with the fighter game. It really is. But I'm interested to see how the flying compares. And I know this one is more, of a flying style, like you're flying a plane, instead of like Elite Dangerous, where you can take those controls off and just free fly it like you're actually in space, with all that momentum and everything.
That
I,
lateral
I'm just interested.
strafing.
Yeah, I'm just interested to see how, and you get so much freedom when you do that in Elite Dangerous. And especially if you got two joysticks, which I don't, and I need to get that second one so I can have some fun with that. But it's just really interesting to me the way that different fighter games have approached that, and especially over the last few years, and or in Star Citizen's case, it seems like the last decade they've been developing that thing. But I'm interested to see how this game approaches that and how they use it to achieve what they want to do in the game.
Yeah, and Steve, I think you're going to be the most knowledgeable about those pre-existing space flight sims, because you've had Elite Dangerous, and you've had experience with that.
Yeah,
Whereas,
I only just started playing Star Citizen because I only just a couple of weeks ago got a computer capable of running it. And my computer feels like it's going to have a meltdown every time I do. There's so much heat coming off of it that
yeah, I'm also, in case you all can't tell, I am probably the least experienced of the group with gaming in general. Although I understand there are several geeks and gamers on Twitch, I am generally not one of them until now. For whatever reason, I mean, it's Star Wars. Star Wars is the reason, but
Yeah.
um, that is a big reason why I'm getting into this, and why we're putting this team together. Which you may have been able to tell, there are 4 of us who are regulars right now, and it is a 5-person squad, which means one of our story arcs on the stream is going to be our search for a 5th team member. We have one more that might join us every so often, but we still have an opening in the ranks. Um, so that'll be something that is still TBD. Um, hey, all of my bad Battlefront plays ranked me up. Okay, that's not bad. Um, anyway, why don't we pivot now? We are going to put aside childish Battlefront things, and we are going to move to looking at a few of the advanced trailers for Star Wars Squadrons for the rest of this hour. Just so you all know, we are going to be streaming the actual game tomorrow. We're going to get on at about 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And the game should be available in our region at midnight Eastern Time. And we're going to be doing a marathon stream, and I'll be playing through the campaign just as fast as I can get through it. Um, so join us then, definitely. But for now, let's take a look at some trailers.
Yeah. And we can also, for our HOTAS experts, We got DP Arcade's got a question in the chat. Are you going to be using the joystick plus the throttle, or are you going 2 joysticks? I think Steve, probably you're the best person to answer that.
Do we lose Steve?
No, sorry. I've never tried the 2 sticks. I'm intrigued to try it. I've heard of other people doing it. I've watched some videos of other people doing it. I've never tried it just because I feel like my brain doesn't think that way. You know, I have the keyboard in front of me, and that I've always used that, and I'm kind of a traditionalist, so that's that's how I do things. But I'm kind of interested in branching out, partly for this one, partly for Elite Dangerous, because I think you might be able to do some things quicker with just more joystick buttons mapped. And I don't know what the advantages and disadvantages of it are yet, just because I haven't actually experienced it. But I'm interested to try it and see how it works. And I'm getting a new joystick for this one anyway, so I might as well, see how it goes.
Yeah, I think I'm also curious, like, because I haven't played as many flight sims. I wonder how different it will be for a starfighter to fly versus like a World War II fighter plane. Like, I wonder if there's going to be any built-in resistance into the land fighters versus something like a starfighter. But let's look at some starfighter gameplay, and we can ponder that together.
Yeah, so we're going to start with the original trailer, and then we got a couple more coming up after that, and we'll be doing a little bit of a reacts video. So here we go. So this is the first bit we saw of Squadrons. This was the first look back in June, I believe. And this is using the gameplay engine. This is not a CGI trailer, although they did release one pretty recently. We'll look at that a little bit later. How's our audio looking right now, folks?
Yeah, I think I just like the thing that strikes me is, you know, first off, like I love what he's doing with the X-wing, where he's toggling the wings to pick up some speed here and there. Like I think for the X-wing, that's going to be like a really interesting strategic point.
Yeah, I would like to see some S-foil movement. They've been sort of vague about whether or not that's going to figure into gameplay, whether or not the S-foils on the X-wing and the U-wing are going to figure in. Based on what I've seen, my general impression is that it won't be a factor, or at least not a significant factor. But I kind of hope so, at least if for no other reason than just for aesthetic reasons.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
But you can see it's similar to the old X-Wing versus TIE Fighter game. They're really stressing both factions here. Also similar to Battlefront recently, too. Facing off, like it's the third installment in a superhero trilogy. This is the Yavin Prime map, which looks very pretty.
Well, I think that's the other thing too, is that this game just, the scenery looks gorgeous, the levels look like they're going to be gorgeous, and I think like they've done a good job pulling in some of the environmental stuff, right? Like I think if I were piloting a fighter and an Imperial Star Destroyer just like came out of nowhere, I'd be a little concerned. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, so I know the cloud cover in Yavin Prime is going to make somewhat of a difference. It's going to offer some cover. However, there is going to be a damage component. So you won't be able to stay in there forever. I was kind of hoping that like we could send the A-Wings down into the cover and swoop in behind the opponent, but I don't know if the A-Wings are going to hold up or if they're going to take too much damage. So we'll have to wait and see there. Hey, Ugliest Dwarf, thanks for the follow. We're up to 3 follows in our first 35 minutes. That is better than I was expecting. Thank you. Thank you all. This is really fun. Yeah, so that was the initial trailer that came out back in, I want to say, June. And that's introducing kind of the basic elements. 5v5, team-based play, which I don't know about you guys, but that kind of play style I'm much more comfortable with. One of the things in Battlefront multiplayer, and this is not at all exclusive to Battlefront, but one thing that I just cannot get over is thinking I know where the enemy is and just not having a large map and not having a good handle on which way I'm supposed to be fighting. And as soon as I have somebody in my sights, it's like that sniper meme where the people in the church pews all have guns trained on each other. I am like the second person in the church pew with another person behind me pointed at with a gun pointed at the back of my head. Um, so that's kind of how I feel about Battlefront sometimes. And one of the things I'm excited about Squadrons for is that it's 5v5, at least in dogfights. So they can only be in so many places. In the fleet battles, it'll be 5v5 plus AI, so there'll be a little bit more of that kind of larger multiplayer where you don't always know if somebody's behind you. But it should be a lot easier to keep track of where everybody is. At least that's the hope.
And that's another gameplay element that I've been really interested in is sort of situational awareness. Because in the
Mm.
old X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, that was really bad. Um, yeah, you kind of knew general directions where people were, but you had no sense of distance. You had no sense of where danger was until someone started shooting at you, and then you had a half a second to figure out where that was coming from, so you could react or you were dead. So I'm interested to see how they resolve you being aware of what's not directly in front of your ship and what's behind and to the side of you or above and below because we're talking about space here, right? So,
Yeah.
um, and it's just very, very hard to do that. Elite Dangerous does a little better job of that, I think, and sort of giving you a sense of distance, but it's still a little rough. I haven't played enough of Star Citizen to know how I feel about that one. But um, that's another gameplay element where I wonder, how do they deal with this and how does it actually feel in the game? I mean, you can see some of the stuff in the videos that comes up, but you never know until you have hands on, like we're saying. So
Tune in tomorrow to find out.
yes,
Yeah, and we'll look a little bit. It's their. We'll look at their equivalent of kind of a mini map. There's a sensor set up in the cockpit. We'll take a look. We should see it in the next trailer, which is more gameplay centric.
Let's rock and roll.
do it.
The second Death Star is gone. But the Imperial fleet is still at
While
threat.
he's working on bringing that up,
Vanguard Squadron.
I want to point
Oops.
out
Sorry,
something
Steve. Go
else
ahead.
that while we watch these trailers, uh, and this is a concern of mine. EA is very good at making games that look great and don't play very well. And so
What?
one of one one of my concerns, and partly it's because sometimes they don't take full advantage of what they have at their disposal. I mean, they're a massive company; they can make any game they want if they treat it with respect. And much like Disney taking over Star Wars, I'm worried that they won't treat it with respect, and they'll just treat it as a cash cow. And historically, EA has done that with Star Wars games. Obviously, we all know the big controversies with the loot boxes and everything like that. But um, they seem to maybe have gotten a little past that. With their last with Fallen Order, sorry,
Yeah.
and people loved that game. But again, with Fallen Order is Assassin's Creed with Star Wars stuff stuck on top of it. So this one looks like it's going to be an original game, something that's not just a clone of something else on the market, and that is a unique idea, and it looks like hopefully something they showed respect with and really, put some effort into, and will hopefully will continue to do so. But that's a concern, and I don't know how concerned you guys are about that.
Steve, I think Disney's done an adequate job with the Star Wars license. But I also want to ask, do you think with your HOTAS setup you'll be comfortable or you'll be able to shoot from the hip like you've just done.
I hope so. I mean, that's the only way I know how to fly.
No, I think those are fair concerns. And that's, I don't know if that played into their decision to make it a $40 game instead of a $60 game. Also, if you all don't know, it's a slightly cheaper game. Um, or if they just figured, hey, these guys have been working on a passion project, and we can slap a label on it, and we can sell it for $40 when we didn't necessarily anticipate doing that. Maybe that was part of it too. So another thing we're going to find out tomorrow is how has EA taken the core concept of this game, and how have they refined it, or how have they failed to refine it?
Yeah, and good game developers, when they have a release, they listen to people and they react quickly. With minor updates here and there, or a major one if it's necessary, and hopefully they're going to do that. But we'll have to see.
And that's one thing, at least initially, the developers on this game, Ian Frazier's been responsive on social media, and they did actually make an update in response to fan questions about HOTAS for consoles. Originally, I think HOTAS was only going to be supported for PC gameplay, but they did also add a patch, which I think is going to drop like the same day the game drops,
That's a good sign.
for HOTAS on consoles as well, both PS4 and Xbox, I believe. So that is at least an early sign of their responsiveness, if nothing else.
Well, I'm curious to see if down the line we'll get any other fighters, or any other classes of ships.
Oh yeah, people are
Because, like,
clamoring
I
for the
think,
B-wing and the Defender.
longtime Star Wars fans. I mean, when you sit there and you talk about, the shield usage, right? Like getting a TIE Defender in there, the pet project of Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be worth it. And I honestly don't know how you would fly a B-wing. Like, realistically, like, I just, like, do you have a toggle that you can, like, flip the cockpit, or
Oh yeah, you can either anchor the cockpit to the rest of the ship or have it freestanding and not rolling at all.
I swear that's the reason they didn't do it, is because they didn't know how to do the physics of the B-wing.
So trippy. I kind of hope they do figure it out. So hey, buy this game so that it'll force them to get a B-wing DLC, and everyone on VR can vomit their brains out. So here we can see a little bit of the HUD setup for the A-wing. You can see the shields over here. You can see the components here. Laser charge. Looks like they have their power to engines, I want to say. No, not engines. They're at max
That's
velocity.
shields right there.
Yeah, those are shields. Engines are here. Yeah, so they're at full shields and half lasers and 0 engines, it looks like. And then this is their sensor. This is as close as we're going to get to a mini map. And I've looked at these trailers a lot, and I have trouble figuring out actually how to parse this out. So, because you can see it moving as the ship rolls, but I still can't really make out, like, it looks like there's no depth, but there would have to be some depth. Otherwise, like, the range on this thing isn't infinite. A ship isn't going to show up on your sensors from the other side of the map. So at some point they're going to pop in, I guess.
Yeah.
And then when you target an individual ship, it shows up on the individual targeting computer, which is here. And that, I think, is actually going to be handy because when I'm shooting a thing in a game, I will focus on the crosshairs. And there's a HUD variant for crosshairs in the middle, like you would expect. But the crosshairs don't necessarily, or it's not exactly evident when you're just using the naked eye, which way the opponent's ship is actually flying, whether or not it's turning, whether or not it's heading towards you. And that targeting computer here will be helpful, I think, for anticipating which way your targeted ship is going to be flying.
I'm excited to see more General Syndulla. That's where I'm at.
Oh, General Syndulla? Yeah. Sorry, I missed that. Yeah. Our team mom from Star Wars Rebels is going to be showing up, at least for a cameo, hopefully more. Man, great character in that show. If you all have a dog in the fight, the Clone Wars versus Rebels debate, sound off in the chat. I know where I sit on that, but that's a little bit beside the point. Oh, hey, we got to see a little bit of the TIE Defender here, with its much larger cockpit view. All the other ties obviously have a much more restricted window, though you can see below the horizon. But still, this is another reason why I'm probably going to start out with a support class when I start specializing, is that it's easier to see out of this thing. And the cockpit setup is a little bit more friendly than the other tie setups. And it has shields, which I will need because I need a high margin of error when I game.
You're going to want your shields, but just give me a blaster. Don't need any of your old hokey shield religion, Andrew.
My hokey shield religion. A Jedi uses his ship components for defense, never for attack. And
Let's
we
just
have
talk
some of the customizability here, including in-cockpit
about the fact that
customizability.
Jedi couldn't get their act enough together to put hyperdrives into their ships.
That is true.
Oh man, I would be very happy with an O-ring DLC for the TIE fighters. Not that hyperspace is going to figure in, but okay, fine. The Jedi ships didn't come with hyperspeed built in, but damn, the O-ring's cool. It's just sitting out there waiting for you to latch on and ride away. Anyway, go on, Dan.
You're going through some of the modes. It's some good stuff.
Yeah, we're getting to see some of the components up close here. This is some of the tight broadcasting you can expect from Crazy Old Wizards chat. And this is the main fleet mode. What we just saw was dogfights, which is just pretty simple 5v5 team deathmatch, which frankly I'm looking forward to a little bit more because of what I said earlier about it being more intelligible and easier to keep track of where everybody is. But this is the main multiplayer mode, fleet battles, which I think does have a lot of potential if they can figure out the dynamics of the capital ships and have it interplay just right with the fighters. So here's sort of the initial stage where you amass your forces and you engage in kind of the initial skirmish in the middle of the map. Which is and the later stages of this are going to make teamwork and customization a lot more important. Because once you get past kind of the initial skirmish between the fighters, and you deal with the capital ships like here, you're going to need bombers more and more, which is where Dan is going to become a clutch hitter. Because then it's not just about whether or not your A-wing can be faster than their TIE fighter, but it's going to be more about whether or not you have the right tools to handle a different sort of challenge. And if you deal with the capital ships, then you get to go with the massive flagship and deal with the turbo lasers, which are apparently, from what I've heard of the people who played the advanced copies of this game, the turbo lasers are rough. You don't see it so much in this trailer, but it's kind of a death sentence if you haven't already taken out their targeting systems. So I think I'm going to be dying to turbo lasers a lot.
Well, and I think people are going to have to get used to, if you want to take down a capital ship. I think people are going to have to figure out if they want to take down those capital ships that, they're going to have to go in with the strategy. You can't just wing it.
Yeah,
so to speak.
I'm going to have to get used to the idea that turbo lasers are a huge threat to starfighters, just because, the first Death Star attack, they're so small, they're evading our turbo lasers. So in classic Star Wars games, they always kind of settled that by having separate laser cannons that are quicker turning and more designed to deal with starfighters, while turbo lasers were for capital ships. So they've kind of deviated a little bit from the way that other games have handled that.
Yeah, and I think we're all going to get used to that strategy as we're kind of going in. Again, this game is going to launch, and we're all going to be sitting there learning the mechanics so that our starfighters do what we need them to do.
Yeah, exactly. and that's going to involve some serious trial and error, at least on my part.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I definitely think it's exciting, and you know, um, what I'm curious to see is if people are going to come up with any wacky kind of ways in the 5v5. Like, is there someone who's going to do a fleet of 5 support ships? Like, is that feasible, or are you going to need those balance?
Every everyone is shielding every other ship, and we're just circling the wagons. Yeah, in case you guys don't know, one of the components that the support ships can use is a thing called a tactical shield, I think, where you can project an additional shield around another one of the ships on your side to like offer them a little bit more protection and take them under your wing. Again, so to speak. And that's one of the ways they've sort of worked on customizability or class distinctiveness is unique components. Okay, so how about we wrap up on the cinematic trailer? And if you are still watching, we will be back tomorrow night at 11:30 Eastern Time, 11:30 p.m., and we will start streaming the actual game, Star Wars Squadrons, as soon as it's available at midnight. So with that, let's jump into the cinematic trailer. Now, this was not made using the game engine. All the other
What?
stuff was. Get a nice classic Star Wars opening with an Imperial ship coming over the top. Twist! It's destroyed.
As all good Imperial ships should be.
Just really cool camera work on this shot right here, where the whole group of TIE fighters is rolling at the same time. That was awesome. Love stuff like that. You know, all this time, let's be honest, chat, we have consumed a lot of Star Wars media. And the fact that they're still finding ways to film it in interesting ways says something about the depth of this franchise and how it rewards repeated viewing and scrutiny. So
It reminds me a little bit. There was kind of that anime version of X-wing versus TIE Fighter that was
Yes.
on YouTube. This reminds me of that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if you all haven't checked out the anime X-wing versus TIE Fighter short, by all means, please check it out.
I mean, I empathize with this Imperial pilot who's like trying to, sa-
Do you
save his men.
do you hate this evil rebel X-wing pilot?
The terrorist rebels.
I really want somebody, chat, if you have video editing capability, please put a snippet of that when they first show the X-wing pilot, but him in his cockpit listening to Billie Eilish's Bad Guy. That's what I need in my life.
I didn't take you for a Billie Eilish fan, Andrew.
I take this X-wing pilot to be a Billie Eilish fan.
Okay.
Well, he said Billy, and I thought he was going to go Billy Idol, and then it just took a total left turn from there.
And see
I mean that.
Go ahead, Dan.
Go. I was going to say that seemed more likely to me as well.
One thing they're doing that's really cool, they're using ways of filming sympathetic and unsympathetic parties in action and suspense filmmaking to sort of try and recontextualize your expectations for who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. This shot of the X-wing sort of like a drone over it feels a lot like the clones after Order 66 on Kashyyyk looking for Yoda in that Nightfall scene, where you just have these mindless drones waiting to destroy anything they find. And that's how they're sort of making this X-wing look. Like, they don't show his eyes. They don't show the TIE fighter pilot's eyes because they can't, but they're trying to make his helmet look a little bit more sympathetic. And a little bit later, you will see his whole face. And it's really interesting. They've put in a real good faith effort to make the Empire seem like, look at that. That is a bad dude right there. Meanwhile, you have... Go ahead.
This is reminding me a lot of a Clone Wars episode where I think it's Ahsoka and R2 get stuck in sort of a debris field like this, and the the Separatists are like hunting through the debris field trying to find her, and uh, Anakin is having launches a mission to go save him by himself, always you know bucking his superiors
Oh yeah,
to go
does
out and do the
does he
mission
have to go
anyway.
rogue? Does he have to go rogue in that one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think he does. Or maybe it's just R2. I can't remember, but yeah, that was a very similar feel to that episode, that initial part there.
Yeah.
I think we're going to need to spend some time too talking about chronologically where this falls, because I mean, I think in part this trailer works because we know the Empire is falling apart, right?
Right.
Like,
This
Yeah.
trailer, that's a good note, Dan. This trailer takes place shortly after Return of the Jedi and the destruction of the second Death Star, and shortly before the start of the actual Star Wars Squadrons game. So that's the context behind the line, the Rebel Pilot's only line coming up in a minute here, um, after he loses his evil astromech droid.
I'm curious if any of the power ups or things that have to do with, like, especially like the X-wing are like, you've got an astromech and he can fix your shield.
Oh, he's handsome. Look at that.
Oh.
Yeah, I would really like a customizable astromech. I don't know if we're gonna get it. Oh, here's the line. Wait for it. Yeah. Squadron subreddit had some fun with that line, as I'm sure you
Of
all
course
can
they did.
imagine.
Gotta love a good water wall.
Also, another favor you can do us, chat, if you have video editing skills, if you can dub over Will Smith's dialogue in the Canyon Pursuit and
I
Independence
was
Day.
gonna bring that up. You beat me to it.
Hope you got airbags.
Well, I also wonder because, like, I think, like, when you first see starfighters and all these starfighters, you think about them as spaceships, but as the Star Wars canon has expanded, you definitely see, like, in Rebels, they use TIE fighters to patrol the Thal all the time.
Yeah. Just parasites on the landscape.
Yeah. R.I.P. Ezra.
So scenic.
Yeah, okay. But have you considered that you're fighting for, like, the people enslaving Wookiees?
Maybe he doesn't care about the Wookiees, Andrew.
He's
He's
handsome.
He's fighting for the man beside him.
Oh no.
That's always the justification. I'm not fighting for, the country. I'm fighting for the guy beside me.
Right.
When you're out there, it's just about the man next to you. It's like, no, there are political implications to you shooting somebody else in this context.
Oh man.
All right, folks. Well, I think that brings our preview to an end.
It does.
And we are super, super excited to have you all back for game launch tomorrow night. We're going to start by playing through the solo mode so that we can get our bearings and have a wonderful night.
We will see you tomorrow at 11:30 p.m. for the start of the stream and midnight Eastern for the launch of Star Wars Squadrons. Steve, thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Clint, thanks for hopping on.
Good evening.
Dan, you have a good night now.
You too. May the force be with you always.
Bye now.